What's up, YouTube? Today we are going to be talking about the Rus civilization. We're going to be going into different build orders I like to use with Rus, and also just a total. It's really just going to be a total comprehensive guide on the civilization. I'll talk about water maps, talk about land maps, and I'll talk about properly using your scouts at the beginning of the game to get as much bounty as possible. When to go for the boar, all the good stuff, all the juicy stuff. So if you're a fan of the Rus civilization and you're looking to get a little better with the Rus, this guide is for you. Um, let's dive straight in. So the first thing I'd like to show, this replay shows my favorite build on land maps with the Rus. Now, Rus is technically it's just not one of the best civilizations on land maps right now. You'll hear some of the pros talk about that sometimes, but guys, unless you're playing at a super high level, just don't worry about that. It doesn't matter which civs are meta, unless you're playing at a conqueror level. Honestly, it really just doesn't matter. So, yeah, don't be stressed just because Rus isn't considered to be the best civ by pros. Like I said, it's very playable at the lower leagues on land maps. Very playable and very fun to play. So this is a basic opening that I do with Rus I will do this every single game on a pure land map. And what I'm going to do is make a scout at the beginning of the game, straight from my town center, my second scout. Take my first scout and go look for some hunt. And you take 2 villagers and you build a hunting cabin over here on the wood line. And this will start generating gold immediately, and you can also make a third scout out of it. And then these villagers will also make a house second, and then they'll make a lumber camp third, and they will start gathering wood. So let's talk about how to properly micro your scouts. Now, you can do this even in the replay, which is cool. I'll put my first scout on 1. I put my second scout on 2. I like to put my town center on 4. My third scout will go on 3. So 1, 2. We don't have the third scout yet, but you can double tap 1 to go to the first scout instantly, double tap 2 to go to the second scout, double tap 3 to go to the third, and double tap 4 to go to your town center. Now what you can do is it can be quite hard to micro this many scouts at first if you're not used to it. But what you should always be doing, if you can't pay attention to the scouts at all times, is moving your scouts with attack move. So after I kill this deer pack, I'll go ahead and bring these couple sheep home. You definitely want to use your scouts to bring home a couple sheep early because the Rus civilization gathers food a little bit faster and you will run out of sheep. But what you can do with your scouts that you're not able to pay attention to as much is you can move them with attack moves. So right now I would take this scout and I would press A and click out here on the map. What that does is it does several very beneficial things for you. If this scout runs into an opponent's scout, it will automatically attack and get the first strike, which is big in a scout-on-scout battle. Second of all, if the scout passes a wolf, it will automatically attack and kill the wolf for you. So you don't have to be looking at the scout every second to see if it passes a wolf. Now you do still want to keep up with your scouts though, because they won't automatically attack the deer packs on attack move. So after your second scout is built and out there, you want to rally your town center back to sheep. All of your villagers are going to go on sheep until feudal age. And once this hunting cabin is built, cue my third scout out of it. It's a little delayed, but there it goes. Something to note with recent changes to the game is that you can now shift queue your scout to kill an entire deer pack. So what I mean by that is you click on a deer and then you shift click all the other deer, and you don't have to worry about it being inefficient. It will just take 2 shots on each deer. That did not used to be that way. It used to be that the scout would, if you didn't micro it, would would take 3 shots on a deer and 1 shot would be wasted. But that is no longer anything you need to worry about since the latest patch. So yeah, this scout's moving on attack move, or it should have been moving on attack move, so I messed it up, but I do find both of these wolves. So. Alright, we'll fast forward a little bit. So, I'm playing against the AI as HRE in this game. And so I'm going to show you guys my fast castle build with Roost. This is a build I like to do a lot. I'll do this build against HRE. I'll do this build against English sometimes. I'll do this build against China. And you can pull this off against civs that if they're going for a second TC or if they're playing passive in feudal, you can always pull this off. Now, if you notice that your opponent is massing units, you may need to mass units yourself and defend, so you might have to pull out of the fast castle at that point. But you'll actually get enough bounty to get wheelbarrow in the Dark Age. If you... Now, hold on. Okay. Let me rephrase that. If you get enough bounty, you can get wheelbarrow in the Dark Age, but it's much more important to make sure you have the gold for your age up. So I'm getting tons of bounty because it's against an AI, but most of the time you'll be fighting with your opponents for bounty. So yeah, you might not always be able to get wheelbarrow in the Dark Age, but you want to get it as soon as you can because you're going to be moving out for the boar, and you want your villagers to be walking faster for that. Also, another thing to talk about real quick is if your opponent is contesting the deer, like let's say that there's another scout here, it's, it just is going to take practice for you to micro those situations properly. But what you can do is just stay focused on this area with this one scout and keep your opponent's scout distracted here while your other scouts keep finding more hunt and try to win the micro war over these deer. It's best to kind of wait for your opponent to shoot a deer, and then you try to shoot the deer after. But really, it's just something you'll have to practice to micro those situations properly. We're going to be going for the Kremlin. The Kremlin is really strong right now. The other landmark, the Golden Gate, is still strong. It is a market that lets you get resources, and it doesn't devalue over time. So you have a certain amount of tickets, and you can always trade one resource for another, and it doesn't decay like a regular market does. But the Kremlin right now is a really strong landmark that you'll see me aging up with 3. You can do this with 4. I think 4 is better. The 3 was an accident when I made this. And we're going to be talking about the board pool in a second. But the Kremlin is really strong right now. It boosts your wood gathering, and it has a big range on the boosted wood gathering. So I can build it here, and it will cover both wood lines, which is really strong. It also lets you spawn militia for food, which is a... militia are like spearmen that spawn at your town center when you click on the icon inside of your Kremlin. They only last 90 seconds, but they're really strong defensively, and you can also use them to raid as well. We're going for the boar. So we're going boar into fast castle with this build. This works very well against HRE, I find, because HRE is not going to have the units right away to contest your boar pull. So let's talk about the proper way to kill a boar, and then I'll talk about the situations in which I would go for a boar after that. So you always want to pull 8 villagers for the boar. That's how many villagers can fit around the boar, and that is also how many villagers can fit inside of a wooden fortress, which is the Roost Tower. So you see I have put 2 villagers onto sheep right here so I don't run out of food as I walk out to the boar. And yeah, so what you want to do is attack the boar with your scout to tank, and then you want to move your villagers into melee range of the boar so they attack with their spears. And we'll watch just how I do that. Once they get out there. And now I'm queuing villagers to wood so I can get a stable. And get a night out. You can see at 4 minutes and 10 seconds I'm already fighting the boar. And so my scout tanks the damage here, and all of my villagers move in close and then attack with their spears. And when your scout gets low health, you can pull it back My scout was actually stuck inside of the villagers, which was unfortunate, but he survived, so that's good. Um, yeah, I see a lot of people trying to do this the wrong way. I've seen people, build a wooden fortress and try to kill the boar with the tower. All that kind of stuff is slower and kind of gimmicky, and this is the most efficient, quickest way to kill the boar without losing villagers, without even taking damage on your villagers. Now, if you mess up and the boar starts attacking a villager, you need to pull that villager away immediately so that it does not die. A boar will kill a villager in 3 hits, so something to be aware of. And we'll drop a hunting cabin out here, so since we have the wood, so they have somewhere to drop off the boar that they are gathering. And now we are trying to rush a stable so that we can put pressure on the HRE while we go for a fast castle ourselves. And eventually you want to get a wooden fortress out here to defend as well. Since it's so early in the game, I would prefer to go for a stable first in this situation. If you're playing against an aggressive civ, yes, okay, before we move on, let's talk about when to go for the boar. Guys, against English, I wouldn't go for the boar early in the game. I just would not. The longbows are going to outrange your wooden fortress, and they can just idle your villagers constantly at the boar. It's just not worth it to go for against English. Against French, I wouldn't go for the boar right away. You're going to want some spears out first, maybe some horsemen out first, and take map control before you go for the boar. And but yeah, against China or HRE or more civs that are slower to get started, you can go for the boar. It also depends on how close the boar is to your base. Sometimes you can get this Kremlin on a wood line and in range of the boar, and that's really nice. Like, then you can get the boar even maybe against English, but that's very situational, right? So you definitely want to get the boar at some point in the game, but you don't always want to go for it right away if you can't have map control. But against the passive civs, I think it's really good to go for it right away. Now we are going to go for a fast castle after we get the stable. So I'm going to put some villagers on gold, since we're going for castle age. I think I'll go to 5 villagers on gold, and I'll start queuing all the rest of my villagers to food. I pulled 2 off of wood over here and put them on food. So right now I've got 6 on wood, I've got 5 on sheep out here, and 8 more on food on the board. And I'm going to 5 villagers here, and then I'll just keep queuing to food until we hit castle age. And now I'm just going to take my knight and try to delay the HRE player from getting to castle as much as possible. Don't pay attention to what this AI is doing. It is an AI. And our goal is going to be to get the relics away from the HRE player. And even if you're not playing against HRE, if you're using this build, it's your goal is still to just get a bunch of passive gold going in the castle age. So I'll show you exactly how I do that. But yeah, you definitely just want to take your first knight and try to delay the HRE as much as possible. And you can also spawn some units from the militia from the Kremlin and send them to raid a little bit as well, which I do in just a second. You just click on this levy militia. It's really cheap, and yeah, you can just go attack with those, because they only last 90 seconds, so you want to send them right away. But yeah, at this point, we're just headed straight for Castle Age. See, I've already got almost resources for Castle Age. And a good HRE player might be hitting Castle Age right now as well. But you're going to have a knight on the field. You're going to have faster prelates. And you can also make archers if your opponent's going for spears. Because I did drop an archery range as well. And yeah, you can always make a few more knights. You can also use your militia to contest the relics. So you have a lot of tools to contest the relics with this build. And we're going to go for the High Trade House. Now, the Abbey of the Trinity would let you get the relics a tiny bit faster, but it's just not as good as a landmark. The High Trade House will let you get to 500 bounty, because it spawns deer that give you bounty. It also will give you gold per minute based on its proximity to trees. So this one ends up giving me 132 gold a minute, which That's like almost 2 relics right there. It's insane. And on top of that, you're getting gold from the deer it spawns, and it's increasing your bounty so that you will increasing your bounty so that you will hit that tier 3 bounty eventually and have the fastest food gathering rate available to the ruse. Now, I'm also keeping enough wood in the bank so that I can drop a monastery immediately and start going for relics. But yeah, this is a build I really like to use with Rus. I think that the Rus have a strong Castle Age and they have a really strong Imperial Age as well. Now you can go for feudal all-ins, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, this is my favorite strategy to play on land maps with the Rus. And so, we're going to have 132 gold per minute here, and we're going to get... I'll get all 5 relics, because this is against an AI, but it's very possible to get all 5 relics. That's the Rus, even against real players, very, very possible. You'll be able to pull it off. So... And yeah, I have the wooden fortress out here as well now. So I would have built, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but you should definitely, I would have built this wooden fortress after the stable. Just because you want these villagers to be protected out here. You know, it's a long walk home, right? If they don't have this somewhere to garrison, it can be dangerous. And if your opponent decides to harass the boar, you can mine a little stone and get these up, these emplacements, and it will be really hard for them to take this down. They might go for rams and everything. If that's happening, you need to build army and defend against that. So, I would like I'll mention briefly. I was going for this build recently in a ranked game against HRE, and instead of going for Castle Age, the HRE player just built a bunch of units at Funeral to attack my boar. So I got all these upgrades on the tower, and he was losing units under here. I never lost a single villager on the board. And in the meantime, I would just made more knights instead of going for Castle Age. I just adapted and made more knights and archers. And I just kept raiding his base, and I ended up killing so many villagers that he just forfeit. All of his military was rallied out here. He wasn't defending his base at all. So you always, the Rus is very reflexive, adaptive civ, so you've got to adapt to your opponent's strategy, right? If they're making a ton of units in feudal, if they're trying to all-in attack your boar play, you cannot go straight to castle, guys. So, just important to remember. But yeah, here I'm hitting Castle Age here. We'll drop the monastery in just a second here. You can see I'm getting 132 gold a minute on this, which is absurd. And, monastery any second now. And yeah, the AI is attacking the board, but he doesn't have nearly enough units to take this down. So, there goes the monastery. That could have been even quicker. And we'll be going for all the relics. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this build order on land. Like I said, this is my favorite build order on land. Some more things to talk about with the Rus, though. The other landmark, the Abbey of the Trinity, it does have some unique techs, and you do get your prelates cheaper. So I do go for that landmark sometimes. I do like it, but yeah, I think the High Trade House is just stronger. It lets you get that 500 bounty. You get free gold for every deer that spawns. It's not only like free food you can just gather, but it's also you get gold for it, and you get closer to the tier 3 bounty. Plus, you're getting gold per minute on the High Trade House. The High Trade House is really strong right now. So, but yeah, once I'll get all 5 relics in this game, and I'll have 400 gold a minute from the relics, plus 132 gold per minute on this, plus the gold from the deer that spawn, plus you can build more hunting cabins across the map, which will get you gold per minute. So, my passive gold per minute will just end up being absolutely absurd. And this is one of the strengths of the Rus. Now in Castle Age, I really like to go for Knights and Horse Archers as my unit comp, but you always need to react to what your opponent's doing. But against HRE specifically, Knights and Horse Archers work really well. Obviously, Horse Archers are going to die to Men-at-Arms if you don't micro them, but if you do micro them properly, your Horse Archers are never even going to be in trouble from the infantry comp that HRE likes to push, because they'll just be slow. You're going to have the mobility advantage, so. From here, with the Rus, like, once you get all the relics and all that, you can go for a second town center, and um, especially if your opponent has 2 town centers, that way you don't fall too far behind on villagers. You can go for a big push in Castle Age. You can raid your opponent to death with your mobility, your knights and horse archers. I mean, there's a million ways to play it. Um, you can also play, like, Rus is really strong in Imperial Age. Um, so maybe not against English, but even against English, it's not terrible. But yeah, you can always go for the late game with Rus because in Imperial Age you will get access to Streltsy, which are extremely powerful gunpowder units, the most powerful gunpowder units in the game. Uh, and you will also have the High Armory, which is your Imperial Age landmark, and it allows you to get a unique tech for your Springolds, which make your Springolds the best Springolds in the game. It gives them increased range. They will be able to deal with Culverins with their range. Yeah, they're just really good. It's really strong. So Rus ends up being extremely strong in the late game, and if you want to play for late game and a big push in the late game, you can do that. So that is going to be it for this part of the guide. Let me see if I miss anything. No, I don't think so. So I will talk about a couple other strategies you can do on land maps real quick. So you can go for a feudal all-in. If you're going for the feudal all-in, you will usually go for the boar and just build like 3 or 4 archery ranges in feudal age, as well as 1 or 2 stables, and just go for a big feudal push. And that is a pretty strong build. And you can also you can drop a barracks as well if your opponent is massing horsemen, and just so that you don't die to all the horsemen and you can protect your archers. And that is a really strong build. You can find some YouTube videos on YouTube. It's called the Rus Boar Archery Range All-In. So if you want to watch a guide on that, there's lots of guides on YouTube already for that build. And then, yeah, the other strategy you could go for is like an early 2 town center play. This is not quite as strong as it used to be. So the Rus used to be able to just buy their town center from the Golden Gate landmark. But with Kremlin becoming meta and nerfs to TC cost, it's just not quite as strong of a build anymore, but you can still go for that. I would still go for the Kremlin to boost your wood gathering rate, and you could, yeah, you could go for an early second TC if you wanted to. You could place your second TC on the boar. This would have been a decent position for it because you get a boar, a gold mine, stone mine, and some small wood lines out here. So TC out here would be okay. It is a far walk for your villagers though. But yeah, those are acceptable strategies with the Rus, because I'm not going to go into those strategies much more in detail. But if you want to try other strategies, those are some ideas I have for you. So yeah, like I said, you can always go for Imperial Age with Rus. Like the Streltsy are really strong. The Imperial Age upgrades are really strong, and Rus is just one of those civilizations like that is just really strong in the late game. So, yep, that's that. Now, before we end the guide, guys, I'm going to talk to you guys about water maps real quick. So, I actually have 2 more builds to show you real quick, but these are much shorter. So, I will show you first how I would do my build for like a Boulder Bay or a Mediterranean. And if you want to learn more about water maps, I do have a water map guide. So yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a playlist of all my AOE4 guides, and you can find the water map guide there. So on Boulder Bay or Mediterranean, you are not going to be making a second scout from your town center. You're not going to be making a second scout at all. You're going to be working with 1 scout as the Rus. It is way more important to get onto the water and spend your resources on getting to the water. And, missing this villager at the beginning hurts too much. So, and also it delays your food income as well if you go for the scout. So you'll take 1 villager immediately to go build the dock, and you use your scout. Use your scout to find the optimal location for the dock at first. I chose this spot because my villager will be able to gather from the shore fish, and the deep sea fish is very close to the dock. And that's good because the fishing boats won't have to travel as far to get there. This does not matter as much with the roost, though, because the roost fishing ships gather food without returning to the docks. Make it make sense? It doesn't make sense logically, but it makes the roost really strong, so, on water maps. So with this build, what we're going to be going for is a dock with 3 fishing ships in the Dark Age, and then an extremely fast Feudal Age. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on, build a lumber camp out here as well, after I do a drop off of this, the straggler tree. And yeah, you just want to go find those deer as quickly as possible now with your scout, so that you can get enough gold for the Feudal Age. It actually took me a while to find deer. And this, we're going to be fast forwarding a little bit, so what we're going to go for now is 4 villagers on the food here. And I think I put a 6th villager on the wood. Now put a 6th villager on the wood, and then all the rest of my villagers will go to food, because like I said, we're going for a fast Feudal Age. So I still haven't started making a fishing ship. That's okay. Roost fishing ships are more expensive because they are a lot stronger than other fishing ships. So yeah, we've got it in queue now. And yeah, I'm fast forwarding through this a little bit just because it's a little boring. But yeah, we're putting all, like I said, all the villagers are going straight to sheep. And you're just trying to find that deer pack so that you can get enough gold for Feudal Age. Fortunately, I missed this deer pack here, and I end up going out to this one, but it all works out in the end. And so your goal is going to be to have 3 fishing ships as you hit Feudal, and you're going to hit Feudal Age much faster than your opponent is if they're also going for water. And the advantage that you will have is that you can convert one of your fishing ships into a military ship right off the bat. So, just fast forward here and putting all the villagers onto food, queuing fishing ships when I can. I get housed for a moment there, that's okay. And I just got enough gold for Feudal. And we're going to be rushing this, so I did 7 villagers, you could even do 8. I think it's probably fine in this situation. You're trying to get to Feudal as soon as possible, so building the Kremlin, of course, covers both wood lines and boosts your wood gathering rate. Very important on water maps. Never go for the other. Just don't go for the other landmark on water maps. There's no reason to. And you can even use the militia to harass your opponent's wood lines. But yeah, the moment that we hit Feudal, what we're going to do is convert one of these fishing boats into an archery ship. There we go. I will slow it down now. So I'll pull this ship out and convert it to an archery ship so that it can start harassing the opponent's fishing immediately. And then from my dock, I'll be making a demolition ship. And that is so that when your opponent does inevitably get to the Feudal Age and they're ready to produce a sprinkled ship to counter your arrow ship, you will already have the demo ready to destroy that sprinkled ship. And yeah, from here, like, you just want to play it like a normal water map, so keep making fishing ships, keep making military ships, and fight on the water, make yourself a second dock. And you'll be putting most of your villagers on wood, with 5 villagers on gold at this point. You don't need any villagers on sheep anymore. You'll be getting all your food from the water, so yeah, that's it. That's how you play Roost on the Water. I think this ends in a second here. That's how you would play Roost on a full water map. And I have one more build order to show you guys real quick for how I would play Roost on a hybrid map, such as Ancient Spires or Mongolian Heights. And that will conclude our Roost guide. So yeah, this is a quick little guide. I'll show you what I like to do on hybrid maps like Ancient Spires. Because on these maps you do want to have a second scout, but you also want to go for the water. So how do you pull that off without missing villager queues or messing anything up? I'll show you exactly how I pull it off. I don't know how the highest level players do it, but I figured this out for myself, and this is how I like to do it. You'll take 3 villagers at the start and put them on the straggler tree. You'll queue a scout at the beginning as well as 2 villagers. 1 villager goes onto the sheep, 1 villager builds a dock. I know it's a little complex, but this, it's a complicated solution to make sure you don't miss any villager queues and you get the dock up and do all of this efficiently. And my scouts will go out and move out for the hunt. And from here I'll be queuing villagers onto the sheep here. So I got 4 villagers on the wood now. So I took my first villager that was queued and I put them on wood, and then the second villager came out and went on to food. I do like to move this villager back to sheep just because, yeah, your fishing boats are going to be gathering the shore fish, but I forgot to do that right away this time. But yeah, we're going to be going up to 4 villagers on food so that you can never miss a villager queue. And then we'll go to 6 on wood, just like we did last time. Except this time we have 2 scouts. And I already have fishing ship. Another difference with this build is I haven't built a lumber camp yet. I'm just getting the fishing ship. Yeah, once I have 6 on wood, then we'll queue everything else to food and we'll be rushing feudal. Same as last time. And so these lakes are really tiny. I only build 2 fishing ships on them, and then I just let them gather until it depletes completely, and then you can just delete the fishing ships. That's what I like to do. You could probably go for 3 fishing ships if you wanted to. Definitely don't go for more than that, I don't think. Not with Roost. With other civs, it's quite different, but yeah, this is a Roost guide, so. And yeah, that's pretty much it, but there's one other thing I want to show you. So with this build, I will actually, once I get my second fishing ship, then I'll build the lumber camp out here and a house. And what you can do is once you go for feudal age and you build the Kremlin, you can actually, like, as you're aging up, you can move a villager out to another lake and start taking that lake as well. And this is just going to really skyrocket your food income. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And other things you could do, like, you could try to sneak a dock here later in the game as well. But, yeah, that's not really a Roost strategy. That's just kind of like Ancient Spire strategy. But if you get a dock here and like a sprinkled ship or arrow ship out here, it's going to be really annoying in your opponent's base for him to deal with that. Or you could even be harassing their fishing if they went for fishing here. So yeah, that's how I like to play Roost on Ancient Spires. And yeah, I'll be going for military. To defend in the feudal age. I'll still be kind of going for a castle strategy like I showed you before on the land map, but I'll be slowly moving out throughout the feudal age and just trying to get as many of these lakes in my control as possible, because yeah, the food income you get from these fishing is just really strong. So and you would use a similar build on like Mongolian Heights or Danube River, just any map where you might want to have 2 scouts, but also go for like water, like the hybrid maps. So, yeah, that's about it. That's how you would do it on Ancient Spires. So I think that's pretty much it for my Roost guide, guys. I don't know if you have any questions, post them in the comments. One other thing I was going to talk about is just kind of like this one map, Waterholes, guys. Waterholes does not have any bounty at all. So if Roost is your main civ, I would just ban Waterholes, to be honest. There's 2 deer packs and there's 2 boar. So your opponent has a deer pack and you have a deer pack. There's no wolves on the map whatsoever. So you can go for the water, and it's still, Roost is probably still pretty playable because Roost is really strong on the water. But you'll have to mine gold unless you're able to get your opponent's deer pack. So if your opponent doesn't kill their own deer pack, you'll be okay. You can go out there and attack it, and get the gold you need for Feudal Age. Otherwise, you're gonna have to mine like 30 gold just to get Feudal Age, and your bounty's gonna be bad. It's just not a good map for Rus. So if you know other civs, you can keep playing Waterholes and play other civs on that map. I mean, you can even play Rus on the map if you want to, or if you're a Rus main, I would suggest just banning that map altogether. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it for my Rus guide. I don't think there's much else to say. So I appreciate you guys watching this video, and let me know what kind of guides you want to see next. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my daily games that I post on YouTube. Check out my Twitch. And thanks again. You all have a good one.